Hello there, folks. It's Nerdy John here, and today I got a very special friend here. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Why, hello. I am Rev, the host and the creator of Revcast.
And Rev usually covers stuff like horror movies. If you're a longtime viewer of the channel, you know I love horror, so it's nice to meet a fellow horror aficionado. So, dude, what was the first horror movie you can remember seeing?
Ooh, this actually goes back to, I think the real horror movie that I saw. I was staying with my dad, and he was watching the movie Extra. So that was more of an exposure.
Extra.
It's one of those low-budget B movies. It's pretty interesting. So having an exposure to that, I used to have a lot of nightmares. So my mother would tell me that in order to overcome my fear, I have to learn about it. So I checked out every single book that I possibly could in the elementary school library on horror movies, special effects, and everything like that, which got me really turned on to a lot of the Universal horror movies, horror monsters.
The
and
classics?
Then, the big-time classics. I mean, I started learning about Michael Landon, who played I Was a Teenage Werewolf, Bela Lugosi as Dracula, Boris Karloff, the greats. And then
You want to know something interesting?
Oh, go ahead.
The stuntman who played the creature from the Black Lagoon actually was a stuntman for Jason Voorhees.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I want to say it was the fourth movie. It was the fourth Friday 13th movie. He was, I want to say he was in his late 50s at the time.
Yeah, didn't he? So when he did the Creature for the Black Lagoon, he had his own frog suit. That's what they called him. Yeah, and he basically would say that the costume alone that he was wearing was pretty overwhelming and heavy.
Oh, I would imagine. Imagine being in that for hours of filming.
Oh, geez. Yeah, no kidding. But the cinematography in that, though, for being a black and white classic is beautiful. Because
and it's also the last true Universal classic monster film.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the practical effects, too, as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, but what I was going to go back to say it earlier, I think the biggest thing that really got me into scary movies was The Exorcist.
The Exorcist is a classic, and it scared a lot of people when it first came out.
Yeah, exactly. The spider walk, or the flashes on the screen of Captain Howdy, or Zoozle. Zoozle? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pazuzu. Man, they ruined that. They ruined that series as soon as the second movie came out. The third one's actually really good.
The third one, yeah, it kind of fell back in line with what The Exorcist was. The Heretic Exorcist 2, I didn't really care for.
And then there's there's two different versions of the fourth movie. One's the original theatrical cut, the other is the director's cut, and they're both vastly different in the beginning, but from what I hear, they're both equally just as bad.
Oh, really? I think the last time that I actually saw The Exorcist 2, I was frying on mushrooms.
Oh no, that's probably the best way to get through that movie, all things considered.
It was. I mean, it turned more into a joke and a parody to me, but that'll be a story for another time. I'll have to explain.
Dude, what I love is a lot of indie horror movies, and I'm not talking the cheapo movies done by Blumhouse. I'm talking indie developed, sometimes crowdfunded horror movies. They're actually trying their best to go back to the practical effects on how things done. My best example is Psycho Goreman. That is such a fun film, but the practical effects are just amazing.
See, I haven't seen. I don't think I haven't seen Psycho Goreman. But since you're bringing it up, yeah, there is a movie that I do like that you could probably classify it into the horror / fantasy genre. And that's Daywatch and Night Watch.
What's that about? No, I have not.
I would highly recommend them. They're both great movies, actually. I think it's Russian produced, actually. So
Russian produced, interesting. What's the like synopsis of the films?
So Daywatch is basically to where you have two different groups. You have the Night Watch and you have the Day Watch. The Day Watch are basically like the protectors of the daylight against certain enemies, vampires, anamorphic people, or whatever. And then the Night Watch is the opposite. So it's kind of like a battle between two different things. And what it comes down to is that they're initially trying to, it's been a minute since I've seen the movie. They're trying to not bring back, I guess you could say, the ruler of the world, the true evil that is present in it. So it's a very interesting movie, and the video or visual effects that they have, the CGI on it, it's just phenomenal. So I'm gonna have to really go back and get an idea of what the synopsis was, so I don't want to sound ignorant on this.
Yeah. You gotta hear,
it's
folks,
been a minute.
Revcast is a liar.
Yeah, it's been a minute. No, I'm not a liar, but it's been a minute since I've actually seen it, so.
Yeah. In your opinion, what do you think is like the best decade for horror?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would probably have to say the 70s.
The 70s, why would you say that?
Well, when it came to the 70s, I mean, the horror genre was taking a new, I guess you could say, new edge, a different level when it comes to actually the cinematography and everything. And that was, I guess you can say, kind of the grandfather of slashers. So
yeah, like Black Christmas came out in like 76, I want to say, and then we had Halloween 79.
78 was Halloween.
78, thank you.
Yeah, and then you also had like the Last House on the Left. That's
I
the Wes
saw
Craven
that
club.
one.
Yeah,
Dude, that's a messed up movie.
exactly. And don't forget the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I would say like if like the 60s was like the 50s was like the last era of like what we would consider like classic monster movies, what would be the horror movies of their time. And then 60s we still kind of had like the monster movie genre, but we started to experiment with more gritty forms of horror. Alfred Hitchcock brought us Psycho, and then there was an underground grindhouse scene at the time, and then the 70s it was just a lot more out there, and it took more leaps and bounds into what was acceptable to put on film.
Exactly, and they really pushed the envelope with a lot of it. I mean, you've also got other great classics like Carrie.
Absolutely.
You've got the supernatural genre like The Omen. There's another good one. So
The Omen, The Omen, that's the one where it's the kid, right? The kid who's like the son of Satan.
Yes, Damien.
Oh yeah, they made a remake of that in 2006 because 666.
Oh God, I remember that.
Yeah, I remember correctly, the remake wasn't liked as much.
No, you just actually brought up a very good memory about that too, because when they did bring out The Omen in 2006, that was also the time to where you had a lot of people, the Bible thumpers, that were trying to prophesize the end of the world. So,
oh yeah, the end times 2012.
Yeah, it's the 2K satanic panic.
Yeah, dude, I was like 10 during like the whole like 2012 end of the world stuff. And for a hot minute, my 10-year-old mind actually believed it. Like, oh no. But yeah, I like. Here's like, I think it's safe to say like 30s through 50s is where we got like the monster movie genre, giant spiders, giant scorpions, etc., etc. And then like from the 60s, we start to like. It starts to hit the genre itself starts to kind of hit puberty, let's say, and then 70s is when it's experimenting,
Yeah, it's
80s
getting
is
into
like,
drugs.
yeah, like 80s is just like I would say the 80s, it's still a very important decade for horror, especially since you had franchises like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, John Carpenter's The Thing, which in my opinion is probably one of the best horror movies. But that was also a very fun decade for horror. You just had like a generic slasher number 75 where college girls, take their shirts off and they get killed by the killer. Just some fun stuff. And then like the 90s, specifically the late 90s, I would say is kind of very boring.
No, I agree. The 90s, they brought in the whole teen scream genre.
Yeah, where it's like, don't get me wrong. We all know that obviously they were getting attractive people to play in their horror movies, right? But I feel like and this goes into like the early to mid 2000s as well. I felt like this is gonna sound weird, but I felt like they put overemphasis on like getting the hottest actors of their day to play the roles.
I will have to agree with you on that. I mean, it also, I like how a lot of the more modern day horror movies have become a little bit, self-aware. They break the fourth wall and they make fun of themselves and everything because they realize that the 90s, early 2000s was that genre of like, oh, cool, we're just going to use the staple formula. We're going to have a bunch of, spoiled ass rich kids that are going to go out in the woods somewhere or somehow get involved in some weird Scooby-Doo shenanigans. And we're just going to kill them all, so.
Yeah, the 2009 movie, Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
That was a really good movie of satirizing the genre. And you can tell the makers of that movie genuinely loved the genre because of all the references they have in it too, especially to Japanese horror as well. I thought it was funny.
I love that movie. And there's a lot of people that will sit there and shit on it. They're going to be like, "Oh, well, Cabin in the Woods was terrible." It's like you're not a fan.
My poor grandpa, he thought it was going to be in like an actual horror movie, like genuine horror. And so like he walked in, like he rented the movie, right? And he watched it and he didn't like it, but like I get why, he's an old school guy. He wants like just like he likes his potatoes, let's put it that way,
He likes the true substance when it comes to horror.
Yes. But yeah, like also like the problem with like the early 2000s is like everyone like clowns on like how much like they milked like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, but you had like some time in between films. Whereas, like, the early 2000s, we had series like Saw, which would come out every single year at some points, and I feel like the story really suffered from it, especially when, like, Saw was trying to be a story rather than just, like, here's a guy in the hockey mask killing kids,
I like the Saw series, though. I like
Saw 1, I like Saw 2, and then I like Saw 3, and then there are elements of the other movies that I like. I just feel like the story overall got, like, it kind of, like, human centipede itself.
Yeah, I could see that. Because you're right. I mean, after Saw 4, I got a little bored. Because then it started coming down to, it's like, all right, cool, what other Saw movie are we going to shit out, using poor CGI? And kind of add a twist to Jigsaw. So it's like, all right, you guys kind of killed it at this point.
Yeah, and then like they're trying to do some stuff with like they tried experimenting with Spiral, the Book of Saw, and I don't know if that's going to lead to anything because I know the reception of that movie was kind of mixed.
I remember when it came out. I still haven't seen it yet. I mean, I know a lot of people were kind of on the fence about the whole thing. There was more praise than there was jeers about the whole thing.
Apparently Chris Rock actually does pretty good in that movie because I know everyone was like, come on, you're getting a comedian to play a serious character, but apparently he does a really good job in it, so props to him.
He's not a bad actor, but he's kind of like Gilbert Gottfried. You can take him in small doses.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the voice would get to you at some points.
Exactly, and then that's what I find a little obnoxious, just the high-pitched wailing, screaming, so.
Oh, what was that movie that he was in? That it was kind of like Inside Out, sort of, before Inside Out. Like, he played like a white blood cell, and he was
Osmosis Jones.
Osmosis Jones.
Yep.
And Bill Murray was in it.
Yep.
That was during a stage in Bill Murray's career where he cared even less than he did in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. I guess he just wanders around, too, and just basically pops in anywhere and just hangs out with anybody. So, what kind of life would that be?
Do you know him and Samuel L. Jackson are the same age?
I did not.
Don't do drugs.
Which one are you talking about?
It was the 80s, cocaine.
No, I know that. But
I know.
I think Samuel L. Jackson he's just too motherfuckerly. That's why looks a little bit.
He's too stubborn to age.
Exactly.
Was it him or Morgan Freeman that was in like a horror movie called Along Came a Spider?
That was Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. I thought that was a monster spider movie growing up, because like I would always see it in like the VA. I would always see it in like the rental place. But no, apparently that's like a serial killer thriller.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of like up there with Seven.
I heard it being compared to that.
Yeah, I like Seven better, honestly. That was the first time I actually got to see Kevin Spacey act like a psycho, and then realize that he's just
psycho.
Well, he's a P word, but
yeah. You know, it's too bad him and Alec Baldwin never worked on a movie together.
Well, one of them wouldn't be walking out. Terrible jokes.
But I feel like recently too, like a good example of this is like the 2019 Black Christmas movie. I feel like the wokeness of modern media is kind of sinking into the horror genre itself. But like I always felt that was weird, because like a majority of horror movies, it's usually the main character is usually a girl who takes down the bad guy, right?
Generally, yeah.
Yeah, and like I don't know if you ever seen like the remake of, well, I guess it's more of a reimagining, if anything. The reimagining of Black Christmas 2019 is weird because like it takes place on a college campus where there are Confederate statues, and the Confederate statues make all the white guys angry and want to murder women.
Oh, jeez.
I kid you not, that's the actual
okay,
plot.
well, you know what? Now I'm going to have to watch it, because generally a lot of the new horror movies that have come out have really not been that impressive. I mean, I liked Halloween Kills, but I didn't like the whole fact of everybody got upset because Michael Myers was homophobic for some reason.
I think that was a joke. I'm hoping that was like a joke article, because like I can't like see that as like an actual headline. The serial killer who kills people killed gay people.
Well, I mean, if anybody's going to stand in the way of a knife, he's going to kill any motherfucker. That's how I look at it. I mean, another thing, since you brought up a prime example too, is that Hellraiser, Clive Barker, him bringing up, the remake, everything. Everybody just had a meltdown over the fact that they are going to have a female lead Cenobite.
What? Wait, people are angry about that? What?
Oh, yeah. And it's pretty interesting, because you see a lot of people that are trying to gatekeep horror movies. It's like there's no gatekeeping in horror movies. You're talking about the deepest depravities of man, and you're going to try to gatekeep a genre.
Also, it's like, it's never like we've never seen a Cenobite that's been a woman. In fact, like the reason why Pinhead's like an icon in the first place, all the lines in the original movie that was said by him wasn't all meant for him. All the Cenobites were supposed to talk, but the problem was, because of everyone's makeup, he was the only one able to speak clearly. So they just had to give all the lines to him, and he became an iconic character. Which, I'm not like downplaying that, but it's like, it's not like he can be the only Cenobite. And plus, too, like, in my opinion, especially the Hellraiser series, it needs something creative. And like a lot of, like, not the past two films, but like a lot of like the direct-to-video movies that we were getting in like the mid-2000s, those were scripts done without the Cenobites being thought of, and like they just shoved Cenobites in there because they wanted to keep the rights to the Hellraiser films, but they didn't want to put the work into it.
Exactly, and that's the thing that I find very disturbing about a lot of the content that we have now. I mean, granted, I am older, but the way that the genre has actually shifted and made a major change to where it was like, oh, hey, this is an original idea, this is a cool concept, let's do that. And then now we're stuck with all this, let's remake this one, like The Evil Dead, let's remake the Texas Chainsaw, I don't know, for the 15 billionth time.
Oh god, the remake, the 2014 remake, was it 2013? It was one of those years. It was so dumb. Cause like, you have a character, like, if that movie took place in like the 90s, it would make sense, but you have a character who's supposed to be 40, is played by a 20-year-old, and like the whole like family dynamic thing is so dumb. And like, it's not even just that movie, because like all of the movies they've been making are based off that remake one, and it's so dumb, because like I get like they're trying to go for like a twisted family message, right? Because that's always been like a core part of the series. But like, I don't know if I'm describing it clearly. It's just like, it was just written terribly. Because like, why would she protect this like 60-year-old man who she doesn't know, but because his letter says he's my cousin, I gotta protect him. Now, granted, like, the sheriff in that movie was obviously an asshole villain, right? But, like, this is, like, you helped the dude who literally killed your friends and boyfriend and everyone.
It's because it's in her bloodline. The thing that I think we're talking about, though, is it just Chainsaw Massacre? Because the one I remember is to where I think it is the same movie, to where they found out that they're related. And
and they took away the massacre in the title because they were worried about offending people.
Well, here's the thing that I found irritating is that the female actor in that movie was obnoxious. That's like how Rob Zombie puts in his wife in every single one of his movies. Just the overall over emotional teen, preteen, angsty, whatever the hell she was.
Yeah, and like,
and
you
constantly
could tell,
crying and emotional and screaming. It's just that's obnoxious.
Also, too, you could tell that in like some parts of the movie, they wanted it to be in the late 90s, but then they added like, no, we got to have this part where like the cop has like the camera on his vest, and like they're able to view it for their iPhone. It's like, that part didn't really need to be added. And it's like, the plot would make a lot more sense if you just placed it in the 90s, but they had to have a modern audience because, you know, it's impossible. Movies are either now placed in modern day or they're set in the 80s. And like, don't get me wrong, the 80s, like aesthetically and like cultural wise, is an interesting time, but it's starting to get kind of stale ever since like the Stranger Things hype has died down.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. I'll probably edit that out. When it came to the Stranger Things aesthetic, I appreciated it because it brings back a lot of things that I experienced in my youth. And it wasn't just Stranger Things that did. Steven Spielberg's 8mm brought back that aesthetic as well. And then when you have movies like It, You know, it kind of gave that whole feel about the whole, you know, the growing up, coming of age kind of vibe. And that's something that a lot of us older horror fans are used to, is the coming of age, you know, kind of, let's play on the nostalgia aspect of it.
Yeah.
Which something that I appreciate. But now it's like bringing that up, you talk about Fear Street. You remember that 3-part series? Yes.
Yeah. I haven't watched it yet, but I hear it's okay.
So, you want to talk about nostalgia. They tried to play in every single thing that they could, especially in part 1, 1994. And to me, it reminded me exactly what MTV was when they were trying to do reality TV shows. Make everything a music video. You know, when you have movies like Queen of the Damned, that's another prime example. That's like one long, giant music video. It has nothing to do with the story of Lestat, but more about, hey, let's make it a pop rocky.
That's a sequel to Interview with a Vampire, right?
Yes. Which, by the way, Anne Rice passed away.
Yeah, I heard about that. It's so sad. She was a very talented writer.
Yeah, she was. And if her, Stephen King, and J.K. Rowling can dogpile on Stephanie Meyers for her shit take on vampires, yeah, she's a queen in my book.
Yeah. But yeah, I just feel like they're like, I feel like they're, I guess the point I'm trying to get across is I feel like they're trying to use it as a crutch more often than not, you know?
I can agree with that. Because they're currently out of ideas, Hollywood, whatever. And they're going to play on the older generation, the older emotions, and trying to get older audiences. Because a lot of the demographics that they do now, and this is no offense, it's going to be offensive. A lot of the younger generation of people, the millennials and the Zoomers, they're not very bright when it comes to capturing vague references or things that happen to be put into a movie as an Easter egg. It's more about the jump scares. It's more about loud noises and just kind of...
I mean, let's look at, like, the movies that, like... I guess not really my generation, because it was like the latter half of, like, the millennials who were teens in the mid 2000s. But, like, we kind of grew up watching those. Like, the Paranormal Activity type movies, the... What was that one where it's like they were all in a video call and...
That's not Unfriended, was it?
Unfriended, yeah. Unfriended 1 and 2. By the way, Unfriended 2 is like, it's even dumber than the first movie because it's dealing with the dark web.
I've found that any time that you mix any form of technology into a horror genre, it's gonna be garbage.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe bet most of the time.
Yeah, it's like if they're busting out a fancy iPhone, or if they're busting out a Sony phone or whatever, or a laptop, it's like, okay, yeah, well, this movie's gonna suck.
Now, like the Ring series, that's interesting when it involves technology because the original Japanese movie, it's a VHS tape, and so like obviously as like the years continue, people are going to try to convert it to different formats so that way they can pass on the curse to other people. And like, don't get me wrong, I think like what was the last movie made? 2017. I think that movie was very dumb, but I thought it was interesting, like uploading the Ring video to the internet, because it kind of plays into like the creepypasta culture, which is something I grew up in.
Yeah. No, and I agree. Don't get me wrong. When I first did a viewing of The Ring, I thought it was fantastic, especially for when it came out. And then I started realizing it after I got done watching it, was like, holy shit, it's like a bad chain letter. Because early internet, you get all of these scams and these emails that would be like, well, if you don't send this to this many people, you're going to die within a week or something. It's like, oh my God, really? They made a movie based around that?
Yeah, Smile Dog.
But speaking of VHS, I do actually love the VHS movies. You ever seen those?
That's the anthology series, right? I think I've seen the first one.
Yeah, they have like three or four. And I think the most recent one was VHS 94.
Shyamalan did the first one, didn't he? Like, he produced it.
I would hope not.
Oh,
Because
if we want
all the movies would have a twist.
with the twist. Dude, speaking of like VHS tapes, there's this really, really chilling movie. It's called a Plinkis. I'm gonna butcher the name. I'm sorry. The Poughkeepsie tapes. Basically, it's this horror movie where it's kind of done almost in a true crimes format, where the detectives find this set of VHS tapes that were recorded by the killer.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, because the movie is done in a mock documentary format, you get to see, like, bits and pieces of the VHS tapes. And they're actually, a lot of them are pretty chilling. You get to see, like, his first victims, how he tortures them. And then, like, a crucial part of the movie is him, like, brainwashing this girl that he kidnapped. And you see her story throughout the film. And the only time you get to see her is through these VHS tapes. So you're only seeing her through the killer's eyes. So it's a very interesting movie that got pushed back a lot. It was supposed to come out in like the mid 2000s, and then it got pushed back all the way to like 2016.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's because like at first like the studio didn't want anything to do with it, and I think like the studio that was associated with the production shut down. So like it was in like a legal limbo for a while.
Jeez. You know, that kind of reminds me, you know what one of the first found footage movies was?
Are you talking about Cannibal Holocaust?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. They actually got sued because they literally thought the actors that were in that movie were dead. They were going to try to charge.
Yeah, and then he had to bring them in like these people aren't dead.
Yeah, exactly. To show proof they're alive. They're very well alive. They're right here.
Yeah. Imagine being the prosecutor, right? And like you got all your evidence that you have, right? Look, those aren't special effects, right? And then like you just see all the actors just walk in, and you're just like, crap.
Yeah, I know, right? You're like, oh well, it's time to pack up. I think I lost this case.
Yeah, that came out in the 70s too, didn't it? Or
I believe it was 78 or 77.
That was an Italian horror film too, so like Italian horror films don't give a fuck.
No, they don't. They don't. They really push it.
Yeah, and so like that was like the height of like, oh my god, protect the children from Satan.
Speaking of which, have you ever seen Dead Snow?
Dead Snow? I don't think I have. What's that about?
I would highly recommend it. Dead Snow and Dead Snow 2. Dead Snow is a little bit more darker than the first one, and the first one's pretty dark.
Oh, Dead Snow is about the Nazi zombies, right?
Yes.
That's I remember a scene from that. Like the dude's like his hand's bitten, right? So that means he's gonna turn into a zombie. And so like it shows this process of him like cutting his arm off, cauterizing the wound so that way he can survive, right? Only to have a zombie come out of the snow and bite his nuts off.
And the thing that I love about it is that they pay a lot of homage to a lot of horror movies. Now, I'm going to say the first scene that I saw is that one of the actors was wearing Peter Jackson's Brain Dead t-shirt while he's in the outhouse, and he's getting a Blumpkin. Never in my life have I ever seen a movie to where you see somebody that's getting a Blumpkin.
Blumpkin?
Google it.
Okay.
Because I don't think you want the other viewers to, or the listeners to hear exactly what a Blumpkin is.
But yeah, that movie had nice effects in it. It did. 2 was a little bit darker. I mean, I love the dark comedy aspect. Oh yeah, no, it's funny. They're great dark comedy movies, and they're horror. So it's like you got a mixture of all three, and that's what I love about them is because they push the envelope with a lot of stuff, especially with some of their subtle references. Mm-hmm. But
then they kind of go a little step beyond, or like, let's give this a shot and see what happens.
What I liked about them too was they weren't science based. It was mythologically based because of the treasure.
Yeah, exactly. And two was a little bit historical based, but it's still
right.
funny.
I'm seeing like the poster and everything for Dead Snow 2. It looks like they're like in the Soviet Union.
They fight the Soviets.
Oh, do they fight zombie Soviets?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't seen it.
Oh, I gotta see this movie now. I gotta see
beautiful.
2.
It's beautiful. I was laughing my ass off in the first half hour of the film. It's funny.
And of course, there's plenty of juicy human victims, I assume.
Yes.
Nice.
First one, especially the first one.
Oh, dude. We got that wave of zombie stuff in like the late 2000s. I want to say it was all started from World at War.
World at War?
Yeah, because
you're talking from Call of Duty.
Yeah, like specifically the Nazi zombie stuff, right? Because zombies were always culturally a thing, right? And like it's not like COD invented Nazi zombies, because Nazi zombies were actually always a thing since like the 40s, but like those are like pre-Romero zombies, right? So they're more magic based.
Yeah, the definition of a zombie was actually more having to do with voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they generally be bringing up, basically blowing zombie dust in somebody's face that was just unruly or disrespectful to a shaman. And which is kind of funny, if you actually watch the movie by Wes Craven's Serpent in the Rainbow, it talks about that. The literal zombie dust. Yeah, I would recommend watching it.
Yeah, but then like as soon as COD World War II came, not COD World War II, but COD World at War, I feel like the Nazi zombie medium really took off at that point, because you had the games, right? And then you also had like different games doing their own version of like Nazi zombies. And I'm pretty sure Dead Snow came out before. Like it came out like a little after that too. The original one.
Let's see. I believe Dead Snow.
2009.
I was gonna say 2009, 2011, somewhere in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And World at War came out in 2007.
Yeah, because it was after COD 4.
Yeah, I used to play World at War, so.
I remember being a little kid watching my aunt and uncle do rounds of zombies, and then like one of them would use the bathroom, and I would take the controller from them, and being like 8, I'm not good at zombies, and so they would die.
I was terrible at it. So, and it actually came out in 2008. So about a year before Dead Snow was released.
Okay. Well, and you know what? Like maybe the filmmakers were inspired a little bit by it, but like if we count for like production, pre-production, all that, it was probably more of like a coincidence, maybe.
I think it was a coincidence, because Dead Snow is, I believe, Norwegian.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, I know that they have gaming systems in other countries.
Yes, we have the gaming systems, yeah.
Yeah, we've got the gaming systems. Speaking of which, I think one of the best movies that's also a dark comedy, Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead is so fucking funny.
It's one of my favorites.
Dude, like the 3 movies that those guys did were very fucking funny.
I honestly didn't really care for Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz was kind of like the montage, like they make fun of like the montage bits in movies. So like there's just like a montage of him like doing police paperwork.
Yeah.
I like that. Those parts are funny. Shaun of the Dead was like obviously you're going to attract a lot of zombie movie lovers with that, and I think they played it up to good in my opinion, because like I didn't feel like the comedy was like, because like when you're doing like a film that has like a mix of horror and comedy, like not even like a dark comedy, but like a movie that has like elements of one or the other, sometimes like you worry about one overreaching, but I feel like Shaun of the Dead was a pretty good mixture.
I think it was perfectly balanced, to be honest, because a lot of the humor was subtle. You know, there was Easter eggs throughout the entire movie, so if anybody caught a glimpse of it, it's like, oh, okay, you know. And being a fan of British comedies and a lot of this stuff, you get the feel for it, you know, the direction that they're gonna go with it and the shtick, you know, and then just the humor is very dry.
Yeah,
you gotta pick up on it.
Yeah, I just like how like he goes through like his normal morning routine while all the chaos is happening around him, and he isn't mindful enough to notice anything.
It's pretty much like a burnout.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a great movie though.
So did you ever like hear about like the legal limbo that's like with the current Friday the 13th movies?
I have not, no.
So like the reason why we haven't gotten one is so long is because like, so like even though the current guys own it, what was it? The guys who own Freddy own him, New Line Cinema. The original studio that owned Friday the 13th before them still holds the rights to all the films that they made technically. So like if they want to do another remake or like a sequel to the remake that they did in 2009, it has to be with their cooperation and approval. And apparently they kept butting heads and nothing got done.
Oh jeez.
That's the thing with a lot of movies. Like, it's not that people don't want to do movies or like the movie ideas that you have as an audience member. It's just because of bureaucracy or legalities that get in the way. Yeah,
it's all tied up in the mumbo jumbo of legalese. I mean, I do believe. I mean, I don't know if I'm incorrect about this, but I do believe that a movie has a 25-year span before the rights become public. Is that how it works? Or is it? No, that's copyright. I think that's copyright. I don't know.
If no one claims it, that's the thing. Because like you can have movies like Night of the Living Dead, where like as soon as it's released, it's made for the public. But sometimes it's like obviously like you can't. I don't think you could upload like the full version of like Frankenstein legally on YouTube without Universal, you know, throwing their hat in the ring. It's basically like if the studio cares about the license or not, because like if it's a property they care about, they're gonna protect it at all cost. But like luckily a lot of films from like the 50s and 40s, no one really cared about them. So like the copyright fair use for them kicked up pretty quick around like the 90s.
Nice. Well, then maybe we can have a public viewing.
Oh, dude,
of the older movies.
Dude, like a watch party of those. Those would be nice. There's Bride of the Gorilla is a funny one because it actually has the Wolfman in it as a police officer.
Nice. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know we're in the era of remakes and that lot. What's one movie where you want to see them do a remake, and for what reason? Like, is it a bad film that has like good ideas that you want to see done in like a proper film, or is it like they were held back at the time due to like the limits of their production, and so like a modern day production could maybe help fix those limitations? Like, is there any movie that you actually would like to see a remake of?
Ooh, that's a good question. If there ever was a movie that I would like to see a remake of and actually do a proper telling of it would probably be Dracula. That would be a good one.
A book accurate version of Dracula.
Yeah.
I heard that like the Netflix miniseries was pretty bad. The thing with Dracula is like, as a character, right? The character himself is public domain, so like anyone could literally do anything with him. Like I don't know if you know this or not, but when Dracula 2000 was coming out, someone did a rip-off film of that called Dracula 3000.
Yeah, I saw that. It was terrible. It's like, am I getting the right one? And then they did Dracula Unbound, was it?
What's Dracula Unbound about?
Was it Dracula Unbound? I'm trying to think. Maybe I'm thinking of Frankenstein Unbound. Or maybe it was Dracula Untold.
I know like the last. Oh no, Frank. There's like the. Oh, this reminds me, dude. Frankenstein.
Dracula Untold. Okay, there we go.
Dracula Untold was like their first attempt at doing the whole dark universe thing, unofficially, of course, but it was their first attempt. Cause like it had like the setup of like, well, actually, there's this super evil vampire that's more powerful than Dracula, and he'll have to take it down in a future movie. And then that never came out.
Well, I mean, especially you're talking about movies that were kind of riding off of Underworld, and they're also riding on, of course, Twilight.
Oh yeah.
And some of the other crappy genres that were going on. So it's like, yeah, I can kind of see the fantasy coming into it and everything, but it was just, they were terrible. I mean, Van Helsing was a terrible movie.
That was the one with Hugh Jackman, wasn't it?
Yes.
And it turned out he was a werewolf.
Yeah. And it's like, oh gosh, here we go, you know. But I mean, I think it would be nice if they actually started implementing stories with more of the characters like Renfield, you know, about Renfield's disease. When it came to this, you know, the telling of Dracula, it's just, I don't know. I think it would be fun.
Yeah. And Nosferatu, the first attempt at making a Dracula movie, was pretty interesting because at the time, Bram Stoker's widow was still alive when they were making that movie, and she was going to sue them out the wazoo.
Oh yeah, that's why they changed the name, and they changed kind of a little bit of the story too as well.
Yeah.
But it ended up becoming one of the biggest cult classics.
Yeah, and so like now you have like this two different versions of like, well, three technically now thanks to Twilight, but like you have like these different like categories of vampires now, and then I don't know if you ever like played Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
That's funny. That's funny that you actually bring that up, because I was just gonna bring that up.
Oh, dude, that's like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is one of my favorite games, and like World of Darkness is a fun tabletop game. What I love about that series is like the respect and homage it pays to the original Bram Stoker lore while doing its own stuff. Like Nosferatu is its own clan, and it's awesome because like they have to like, obviously because like they can't hide in the public. They have to like hide in the sewers.
Yeah, and you know it's funny that you bring that up, because then you got the Bruja, which were the punkers, the Toreador, the Tremere. Mm-hmm. Mine was actually, I was a Malkavian.
Oh, I think I was the I'm gonna sound like a non-fan for a second. What was the clan that was originally blood magic wizards? The Tremere? No,
I think it was the Tremere. I think the Toreador were the good-looking ones.
Yeah, they were like the Twilight ones.
Yeah, and then you had the Feral clan. I forgot what that one was.
Oh, like the ones who are kind of like they're one of their special abilities in the game is actually transforming into like a wolf-like creature.
Yeah.
Dude, like, we were supposed to get Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, and then we ended up getting a crappy free-to-play, like, online game.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, dude, and, like, I remember, like, it was, like, advertised a lot, especially on, like, Epic Games, like, pre-order Bloodlines 2. And, like, we heard
and then you
nothing
and then
about
you tried,
that game.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because you find a lot of these companies that are trying to make tabletop games into video games. Cyberpunk 2077 is one of them.
Yeah.
Shadowrun is another. Warhammer, and you find out that it starts getting worse. And Gangrel are the beasts. That's the one I was looking at.
That's the official name. Okay. Did you know a lot of people didn't even know Cyberpunk 2077 was even based off a tabletop game?
Yeah, that's interesting because I used to play Rifts. That was another tabletop game that was Cyberpunk.
Yeah, and so like a lot of people were like, "Oh, why is it literally the name of the genre? That's so stupid." And I was like, "Well, first off, it's based off the tabletop game of the same name."
Yeah. Oh, and I do have to correct myself. The witches are the Tremere.
The Tremere, okay. Now, the Masquerade Bloodlines audience will not crucify us. We're safe now.
Yeah, that's true. We corrected ourselves. We're trying to be nerdy by not being nerdy.
Yeah. Although we probably got like a dozen comments being like, actually.
Excuse me, I'm gonna go ahead and gatekeep this game. You got that wrong, sure.
Yeah. Another thing too is like, I feel like a lot of like the supernatural elements of horror have been kind of overused a lot, and that's because like thanks to like modern day technology, we can do a lot more with that kind of stuff. Whereas like obviously with like the 70s and 80s, they're like the tech that they had available was a lot more limited, and so like they had to do a lot more gritty type of horror. And I'm kind of missing the gritty horror.
Same here. I love the practical effects. I mean, in fact, it was the special effects that really got me heavily more into the horror movie genre.
Because like,
especially
you were saying that you were reading up on like how they did the special effects. So I imagine that's pretty interesting.
It is, and you find out it's just how they go about it, like stuffing tissue into a nylon, a nylon sock or whatever, and then putting like, I don't know, chocolate syrup and red dye or something to make it look like intestines. It's cool how they would go about that. Yeah, and like what's cool is like when you learn a lot of these tricks, you realize a lot of it you can do it yourself at home for like really cheap. And that's what a lot of people clown on horror on, is because like the entry point in like making the films. But like that's also the beauty of it. It's like anyone can do whatever kind of horror movie they want. I mean, look at like Evil Dead, the first one. I mean, like that was literally done on like a budget of like a ham sandwich, but because of Sam's drive, the movie ended up being fantastic and is culturally loved today. Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, I love this. I love the practical effects. Tom Savini. Tom Savini is so good. Special effects horror master. That guy his work is beautiful. I love seeing stuff like that. Even when in certain movies you have different special effect makeup artists and everything that would do like scanners. Watching a head explode, how they were able to accomplish that. Oh, dude, Scanners is like that. Scanners, you watch that movie for that scene alone. Exactly. But like the story itself in Scanners is actually kind of decent. Too bad they never made a sequel. I know. Well, no, actually they did. Did they? Yeah. I think they made a few of them. I'll have to search for that now. Also, well, I feel like here's my problem with like low budget stuff when it comes to like Blumhouse, where they purposefully cut the budget so that way they maximize the most amount of profit as possible. That's when you can get into bad filmmaking, because you're purposefully
limiting the director, producer, and like the crew itself, because like you're purposely being like, hey, you can't exceed the X amount of this budget, otherwise we're canceling this entire project.
And that's why I actually support more independent projects.
Same. I try to support independent as much as I can.
Because then if you're basically stuck on a budget, we're going to be like, okay, we want you to make it for this cheap, but we're going to go ahead and try to sell it at a higher value so we can maximize profitability out of it. We don't care if it's a steaming pile of shit, but get it done.
Mm-hmm. Dude, Truth or Dare was the dumbest horror movie that's ever come out. And like, there's some dumb horror movies. There's literally a horror movie where the entire concept is it's a killer bed, and whenever someone like lays in the bed, they die. Like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, which granted is purposefully a parody, but that's more intelligent than Truth or Dare.
Yeah, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is a cult classic. One of the pseudo horror movies that, speaking of which, that I thought was bad, and I'll probably get some flack from people, was the movie Teeth.
Teeth, that's the one with the girl has teeth in her vagina.
Yep.
Wasn't that like a whole, like, I thought like the allegory of that movie was like women's consent, right?
Yeah, but it was bad.
It was very it was very what's the expression I'm looking for, on the head with its allegories, cuz like, you know, when she doesn't want it, the teeth bite them. When she does want it, they don't bite them.
Yeah. But I mean, that just generally kind of goes with everything. Mm-hmm. You're taking a risk.
How many like teenage dudes watched that movie and are actually paranoid that might actually happen to them though? That's the funny part. That's a funny part.
Hopefully a lot. Because if you think about it, if you think about it, us being males, we really don't think that much. As long as it's, you know, a place that we can park it, that's what we're going for.
Yeah.
Not to be sexist, but guys are dumb. We're dumb. We're dumb creatures.
Yeah, it's like,
Very dumb.
oh, you want to date me? Yes, let's us go.
Here, I brought flour.
Yeah.
Unk, get in my car.
Although I know a lot of guys who are like, I don't care, dude. That makes it more fun. The danger.
Wrap it up. Wear protection.
Yeah. Don't double bag it though.
Exactly, right?
That will actually break them. Also too, like, I feel like to get into like the gaming aspect of horror, we have not seen like a AAA horror game, and I feel like forever.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because if we got a AAA horror game, they probably put it behind a paywall.
Yeah, I feel like the closest thing we're getting to that is like the Five Nights at Freddy's game that's supposed to come out.
Well, that was also an independent.
Which that doesn't. Yeah, you're right, because that doesn't even work initially, because the original series itself was independent, and like the only reason why Scott gave them like the license for the game is because like he wanted to be more ambitious with the games. It's just he couldn't do it as a solo dude.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think he's going to be working on the games anytime soon, given how people tried to go after him.
Didn't he retire? I thought he retired.
He retired because people were angry with his political beliefs, which, by the way, weren't that bad even. He's because of his money. He donates to political campaigns, right? They found out someone was trying to dox him, and so they were trying to gather up all this information on him. They found his donation history and found out that he donated money to Donald Trump's campaign in both 2016 and 2020, and they threw a fit about it because they were literally trying to say he was a Nazi, but by the way, he gave money to Tulsi Gabbard, which if you whether or not you agree or disagree with her political beliefs, she's like considered like the next best choice next to Bernie for like the left. So like, and like he said in his original statement, I don't choose solely based off political parties. I choose based off who I think would like do the best for the job. But then like, and also too like people were trying to say that he was hateful towards the LGBT community. But that's just not the case because like Scott's done like a lot of like fan meetups and stuff. He's helped out a lot of fan projects with fans who were LGBT, right? And like this was a dude who like which I'm not even sure why people were surprised with his political background, given the fact that like a lot of his early games were like Christian value stuff. It was just sad to see because this was a dude who like genuinely loved making video games, and he literally got bullied into like not releasing them anymore.
Well, this is the world that we live in these days.
Yeah. It's still sad because like you can like the dude genuinely loved what he was doing, and I mean, luckily him and his family have enough money to like last them a while, but still, you know.
Yeah, probably for the next 2 generations.
Yeah, because like it doesn't change like the royalties he gets from the games and merchandise still.
This is true. Anyway.
So I wanted to talk a bit about, since like I mean, to put it bluntly, you're significantly older than me. You saw the rise of YouTube and of its current state. What was it like? Like, when did you discover YouTube, and what was it like viewing the website in those days? Because I didn't discover YouTube till like 2012, right when I was 10. And obviously the site was very different then than it is now. But like, what was it like before that?
I would have to say my first exposure to YouTube when it started coming around, it was confusing at first. But it was mostly like a lot of shit posting. It was a landscape for shit posting.
Yeah, it was like a lot of memes. Like you had like I remember like one of the first videos a lot of the videos that were uploaded on there were like re-uploads of memes that were on other websites, like the lightsaber kid.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it would come down to: is cat videos, Star Wars kid, just other different types of memes. You know, then people started getting a little bit more creative, especially with the expansion of how big it got. It started exploding. And I think just more or less giving people more the ability to make longer videos kind of exploded it even bigger, and spread out to more genres and stuff. But it's definitely superseded a lot of the other video websites.
Yeah, but I remember people telling me that like, because I have a lot of older friends too, and they would tell me that like Screw Attack, it wasn't just a YouTube channel. It was actually a competitor to YouTube at one point. And like lot of like the like old school retro gaming creators were on there first before they were on YouTube.
Yeah, that's where AVGN came from.
Yeah, I thought like how AVGN was, like he did like the VHS tape of the first one. It uploaded to his original site, and then he got platformed on Screw Attack and like game trailers.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I've been watching for that long.
Yeah. Also, too, Pro Jared started out on Screw Attack too.
Yeah, there was a lot of them that did.
Yeah.
I can't stand Pro Jared, by the way.
Oh, I don't blame you. Rich from Review Tech USA started out on there. If you ever watch like gaming news, he's usually like the first to do.
I used to watch Review Tech USA. In fact, I stopped because he kind of dipped his toes into more commentary. And it's like, if you dip your toes in commentary, I instantly check out. It's like I want to watch stuff about things that are nerdy, not your hot take on what's going on with other YouTubers. So
yeah, which I get. I like for my channel, I try to keep it balanced because like I like talking about nerdy stuff, and I like I just like giving my opinions on stuff. I feel like with a lot of creators, it's good for them to keep a good balance of everything. Like my motto is do what you like,
Oh, I agree. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm above anybody. There's kind of there's subtle references that I'll make in some of my streams, and whenever I'm on Twitter.
Twitter is a lovely place.
Oh God, that place is toxic as hell, and I don't know why I keep going back to it.
Yeah, what's funny, to get into that a little bit, what's funny is everyone can universally agree that Twitter is such a bad place. Both, like, it doesn't matter what your political side or anything. Majority of the time, everyone can agree Twitter is terrible, but we all keep going back to Twitter.
It's like a toxic girlfriend.
It's a toxic relationship.
Or boyfriend. Yeah, exactly. It's a very toxic relationship, They start breadcrumbing us a little bit, just kind of be like, oh, I love you, I care about you, come back to me. And then as soon as you do, you'd be like, nope, I'm going to be the mean bitch.
It reels you in with like the cat photos and like the amazing artwork people do, right? And then like all of a sudden, bam, you're hit with like a really crappy take you see from someone, and like you can't help but comment on it because it's so stupid you have to, right? And like you get into like a 20-minute Twitter argument.
Yeah, and then you're like, you know what? This is actually gonna drive me to drink. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna just basically soak my tears.
I'm hopeful for future years of horror. I think people are starting to realize, we probably should start getting away from the whole 80s aesthetic a little bit more, or at least use it in a more tactful manner. Like use it, make it fit the purpose of the story, right? And like, because like for It, right, the It movies, it makes sense to put it in the 80s, right? Because the whole purpose of like the story is, the first part of the story is these kids are terrified by this creature, and then 30 years later when they're adults, they have to take down the creature again. So like if your movie's gonna be, if the adults are gonna fight him in modern day, it makes sense to have it in the 80s.
Yeah, no, I agree. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially when it comes to a lot of genre-specific movies. I mean, you notice that, again, they're going to be making another Texas Chainsaw. If they kind of captured some of that grindy, gritty, cinematography that they did with a lot of the 70s horror movies, and maybe some more of the gore and the actual practical effects, I think that there would be a lot more hope for the horror genre. But everybody's so reliant on CGI these days.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're going to do everything in front of a green screen. We're going to pay our actors this much money and then basically put the rest of production in computer-generated graphics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you're wasting more money and you're spending more resources into actually doing that. Why don't you just hire some special effects master that could probably do this on a shoestring budget, give him $2,000 and say, hey, go have fun at Home Depot.
Mm-hmm.
You'd probably get more of a better respect for the genre.
Yeah.
But again, younger generations, newer generations getting into this kind of stuff, you got to kind of tone it down a little bit because some of them are a little soft.
For me, it's always yes. If the more blood, the better the movie is.
I agree. Just go full bore, push the limits on where you can go with it. That's how I see it.
And hey, if you can throw a titty or two in there too, make it even better.
Oh yeah, that's right. Nipple slip,
Yeah. And one thing I do want to talk about that's interesting in terms of production now with movies. They've used it on The Mandalorian. What they're starting to do now is they're starting to set up these LED backgrounds. Basically, they have like a whole room set up, and what they do is they program, like they use like the Unreal Engine, right? And they actually make the background in the Unreal Engine, and then they display it on the LED display, and so that way, like it actually looks a lot better than green screen, because like what you're seeing is actually in front of the actor, sort of, and because of how it's done in Unreal Engine, it actually there's a lot of foreground to it, if that makes any sense. I don't know if you've watched The Mandalorian, but they do it pretty well in there.
Well, I mean, you're also talking about Disney that owns Pixar.
Oh yeah, that owns like
Industrial Light and
20
Magic. So,
in 20% of the world.
exactly. So it's like, well, if you got a budget like that, I mean, you just go for broke, right?
Yeah. But yeah,
that is
like,
interesting. That is very interesting.
What I love though, like green screen is great for home production though, because for me, granted, like all the kinks aren't worked out yet, but like if you use a green screen for like your stuff, like the quality, like obviously it depends on how good you are as an editor too, but like if you do face cam and like you do green screen stuff, like the quality of your stuff can go up exponentially, even if like the webcam or like camera you're working with isn't the best, because like there's so much fun creative stuff you can do with the editing. You don't necessarily have to worry about the back, like when I say you don't have to worry about the background that much, I mean it's like you don't have to worry about like setting up like a small studio area in your room. All you need is like a green backdrop behind you and like 2 lights, and you're good. And that's why one thing I think we like, no matter what genre of video you do on YouTube, I think one thing that we're all worried about is the corporatization of YouTube itself. When YouTube, it's supposed to be about the general public posting the video of the day, you know, I like seeing slick videos, right? But it's like I feel like a lot of videos lose the home produced quality, if that phrase makes any sense.
Well, yeah.
It loses the charm.
Well, I mean, I can agree and I can disagree. Yeah, I mean, there is a certain luster about it. They're selling a product and they want to go ahead and put the glossed over, glamorized, YouTubers on the front page.
Yeah.
You know? But then again, you've also got the other part of YouTube to where you have literally low effort fucking content that gets out there, and they're just doing phenomenal. It's like, wow, okay, so how does that work?
Yeah,
Your mic sounds like shit, and you got potato quality going on, but you've ended up with over 30,000 subs.
Yeah. So, guys, anyway, this person did a bad thing, and then people responded, and then that's what happened. 2 million views. Or it's like, what I love too is like a lot of like the popular videos are people reacting to Dr. Phil episodes that are like a decade old. It's like, well, like, okay, Dr. Phil, that's low end TV enough already, right? And then it's like, oh my god, I can't believe this insane person is insane. Yes, like, wow, riveting commentary. Like, I'm glad you added that. But the insane person acting insane is insane.
Yeah, and I got to see it in real time back on the television. That was still a box.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of glad that like I kind of missed like the era of like the trash television days with like Jerry Springer and all that.
Maury Povich, Sally Jesse Raphael, Geraldo Rivera. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you was lit with my cousin. Joke's on you. They were already my cousin too.
Yeah, and they're Nazis. Throws a chair.
They're Nazis, but they're also black. Let's go all the way.
Might as well. And somewhere in there, somebody's gonna, from the audience, is gonna throw feces. It's gonna end up on stage. And everybody's gonna have a great time.
The studio looks at that and they go, "Oh my God, the ratings!
This is quality. Let's go ahead and put it on daytime.
I want 12 more seasons."
We'll get all of the housewives and the grandmothers watching this stuff. They'll love it. They'll eat it up.
Oh yeah, isn't that funny though? With like how American censorship works, it's like you can show the bloodiest stuff on film, like you can't show it on TV, right? But like you have like more. Like PG-13, for example, you can't have more than like 1 or 2 F-bombs, right? But like, what's funny is like current days, PG-13 films are way more violent than rated R films are. Like not in terms of like blood, but like what the actions that they do in the films are like way more violent. But it's okay for a teenager to see that because they didn't say the F-bomb twice.
Yeah, the subtle reference. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Because nowadays, even on just basically public broadcast television, you hear the word shit a lot more. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, okay, well, we already gave a notification in the top right screen that this is for mature audiences, and this is like, okay, well, it's 6:00 at night. And I just heard one of the commentators, or the narrators, or news people just say the word shit and ass in like less than 2 sentences. My kids could be watching this shit.
I know. They're like, oh. The pearl clutchers come out. They go, "We need to censor this."
And it's funny because back in the day, if you got away with saying shit or profanity on television, they would cancel you. They'd be like, "Okay, we're just gonna fire you. You can't say that kind of profanity on live television."
Yeah, it was kind of like the opposite how it is now, where it's like, because like the lefties were the cool guys. Those were the edgy guys that you wanted to be with, and like the conservative right-wingers were like the sensitive babies who are like, no, you can't show this. Think of the children. And that
hasn't left. That hasn't left.
Yeah,
we're still in a moral panic.
I mean, there's still, those types will always be there, but now it's like I think people kind of realize that, oh wait, both sides are like censorship nut jobs.
Oh yeah. I mean, if it's not censoring video games, it's censoring wombs.
If it's not censoring the language, it's censoring like the story or this or that, right?
Yeah, exactly. You've come at a strange time, John.
It's definitely gonna be a fun time, that's for sure.
Yeah, be sure to tell me how it ends up. Because I'll be long gone.
Don't worry. When I transport myself to hell. So how did it go? Didn't go that well.
Exactly. I'm here.
Yeah.
I brought ice cubes.
So you know what's interesting? Instead of doing YouTube Rewind, they're doing this thing called Escape 2020. Basically, it's still like a year-end like highlight thing, but it's a stream. But what they're gonna do is it's kind of like the Super Bowl, where they get a bunch of musical acts to like do performances, and I assume they're probably gonna have like, or try to have like some comedians in there too.
That's gonna be a train wreck.
Oh yeah, it's always a train wreck. But it's funny though, seeing like people, obviously like people actively would like crap on like Rewind every year, right? Rightfully so in some cases. But then like those same people are like, what? We're gonna miss this. Why are you getting rid of this?
Yeah, I know, right? They don't appreciate until it's gone. It's kind of like the McRib. Everybody gets their hopes up, their expectations, like bring back the McRib. They bring it back. It lasts for about a week. I'm like, oh man, I should have ate that McRib. It's giving me the McShits, And then when it goes away, they start complaining. He's like, well, why'd you take my McRib away? I want it back.
That's such an odd item to have as like a limited thing, because like a rib sandwich is kind of generic, right? I mean, granted, it's way more expensive. It's a bit more expensive than like your standard burger, right? But it's like that's such a weird item to have as like a limited time thing. Because like most companies, when they have like a limited time sandwich, it's like they have like a special sauce or like special toppings or like the bun, even.
You mean kind of like the Tony Scott, where they just added mayonnaise to something?
Oh god, no! I'm like, do you remember like the ghost pepper sandwiches like Wendy's used to have?
Yeah,
I never got to try one of those, but like that's what I think of like when I think of like a limited time sandwich. McDonald's is like, yeah. So instead of a burger, we put a rib in there,
and it's gonna be pressed meat. It's gonna taste like pork, but also got the consistency of cardboard. What do you think? Let's sell it. Let's add some onions on it. Yeah, we'll just slather it in barbecue sauce, throw some onions on it. We'll call it the McRib.
I think we replicated the marketing the meeting.
Pretty much. You got somebody that's in there just be like, I'm bored. You know what? Let's just make something up. I know. I got an idea. Yeah, it looks like a Big Mac, but we put Thousand Island on it, and we'll change the name.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, sell it. Let's go.
Oh, real talk though, Thousand Island on a burger is actually really good. I do that now whenever I have home cooked burgers.
Yeah, well, I mean, Thousand Island to me, it's spicy. Just kidding.
I was about to say spicy.
Well, I mean, if you're mostly white, ketchup is spicy. So.
Oh, my grandma. Bless my grandma, but she thinks like salt is like too much to add on seasoning sometimes.
Oh jeez.
Meanwhile,
I'm gonna have to. Oh, go ahead.
What was that? Oh,
I said I'm gonna have to end up buying my wife a salt lick because I mean she likes to oversalt everything. And she's like, Jesus, man, I can taste the arteries clogging on this one. We're having a stroke. I can
feel the heart attack I'm gonna have in 10 years.
Exactly. I can literally taste a stroke. So.
So are there any movies you're looking forward to in 2022?
To be honest, not really. I mean,
I haven't heard anything besides because I'll be honest, like the film I'm really excited for, which at the time of recording is coming out in like 2 days. I'm excited for the Spider-Man movie because I might get to see Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man again, or maybe not. Who knows?
See, and that's the thing. I've been catching a few things. People are getting upset about the Spider-Man. It's like, well, they're playing the multiverse, so how can you be upset? Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not, like, I saw so many, like, and this is from, like, the type of guys who are, like, who always hate on every Marvel movie, like, that's been made, like, post 2016. Which, by the way, like, I'm not saying you don't have to like the movies, but, like, also, too, like, the people who overly praise a movie and the people who overly crap on a movie are equally just as annoying, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I agree. And then you always got those the fans or the gatekeepers. They'd be like, well, this is not according to canon, so let me go ahead and correct you here real quick. It's like, oh, geez, here we go.
Yeah.
I don't care. I like the idea that they're going to bring in the Sinister Six. That's pretty cool.
Like, that's gonna be awesome because it's the first time we could see the Sinister Six in movies. You know,
exactly. And throwing in the multiverse, that makes it better.
Yeah, because it's literally a universe of universes of villains teaming up to fight universes of Spider-Man. You know, and like when you involve the multiverse into stuff, you can be a lot more creative with how you do stuff. And like
this is true. But I mean, you also got to look at it. How many times have they used or played the multiverse or revamped a movie or whatever? I mean, the movie's actually going to go on the wayside and start taking a shit is when they start introducing the time paradox.
Oh yeah, like the time travel stuff.
Yep. As soon as that starts entering into any movie, okay, well, it's the end of the series. I'm not going to miss out on much. I think I'd rather go have a lobotomy than watch this 2.5 hour pile of trash.
Yeah, and like I feel like too, like obviously writers go into writing time travel movies knowing like about paradoxes, right? So I feel like they try to overly complicate the rules of time travel in their movie, right?
Yeah.
Because then that's where you actually get the paradoxes, is from like the complicated rules that they force upon themselves. You know, it can't just be, oh, a guy invented a time machine, decided to like do some time traveling adventures. No, it has to be like, you can only go back X amount of years.
Yeah. You know what I would like? I would like the writers to actually shift the current Mandela effect that we're going through right now. Because honestly, this world, I think I'm in bizarro land. So whoever's writing the life of Earth, change it back. Because this shit sucks. It's terrible.
We get the aliens from that South Park episode where it's revealed that Earth is one big reality show.
Yeah, exactly. This is not funny anymore. I hate this timeline. Get me off of it.
I was in the wrong timeline.
Exactly. I want to go meet my evil clone. He'd probably be a hell of a lot more fun to hang out with.
Yeah. Where's my evil twin brother, Juan?
Exactly.
Rev. So, is it?
Yes.
You got a stream this Friday, don't you? At the time of this recording.
I do actually. Yes, we are. We are going to be doing a Christmas stream on Friday, and we're going to be covering 4 movies. The movies that we are going to be covering are considered Christmas movies. I consider them Christmas movies. It's going to be Gremlins, one of my all-time favorites. Die Hard, another one of my all-time favorites. Lethal Weapon, and Batman Returns.
Batman Returns is such a great movie. Like, speaking of Batman, before we wrap this up, did you hear that he's coming? Did you hear Michael Keaton? He's coming back as Batman in a Flashpoint movie.
I did hear about that. That would be interesting.
That's gonna be fun, cause like apparently he's gonna cause like it's gonna be his Batman. It's not like they just brought him back as like, oh, you know, you played Batman before, we need you to play Batman in this movie. No, it's gonna be his Batman, and that's gonna be awesome.
I look forward to that. Honestly.
Yeah, but guys,
I'm kind of looking. I'm looking forward to the Batman with Robert Pattinson.
Honestly, I'm interested in it, but like. I'm at the same time, I'm also starting to think this looks like Hot Topic the movie.
Oh God,
featuring
that's a good
Batman.
way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Now I'm gonna be listening for some of the Hot Topic music that they play, and the tattooed individual that's gonna stare you down like you're gonna steal shit.
I know, and then like all of a sudden you start hearing "Welcome to the Black Parade."
Yeah, exactly. You know what's fun? You know what I find very interesting about a lot of Hot Topic workers too, is that they work a part-time job and have more fucking ink than I do. How does that work?
That's a good question. Their parents paid for it, easy.
I don't know. I've never seen somebody go in there with so much shit on their face and fucking ink, and I'm just like, hey, dude, I bust my ass for a living. You work part-time listening to music all day, and you sell shitty items. How is it that you can afford all that ink? I'm jealous.
Well,
yeah.
all you see, all their income besides bills goes to Starbucks and tattoos.
It probably, maybe they're doing a side hustle. I don't know.
Yeah. Also too, like the area I live anyway, tattoos like are pretty cheap. Like they're not, a lot of them are good, but they're cheap. So that's how a lot of people get their tattoos in this area. Is like they just get it done on the cheap.
Just throw down whatever pocket change you got. What can $250 get me?
I'll get you a back tattoo.
There, yeah. And we'll misspell it. We'll call it Bubba Jenkins or something. Yeah.
Anyway, guys, make sure you sub to Rev. He does really entertaining live streams, really interesting horror movie discussions, and he's going to be doing an awesome stream this Friday. Any last closing thoughts?
No, I don't. But I do appreciate you actually having me on, John. This is
Oh,
fantastic.
of course. I like my. I feel like I say this in every episode, but like I feel like as long as we can have an interesting conversation, no matter the sub size, I always want people on.
So do I.
Yeah. Anyway, this is Nerdy John signing out. Have a lovely day.